Ever catch yourself in the C-suite, checking all the boxes, hitting every target, yet feeling completely disconnected from why you started this journey? You're leading with precision, but not with purpose. And that disconnect, it's not only costing you fulfillment, it's costing you the kind of magnetic leadership that transforms organizations. Welcome to the Power Talks for Remarkable Females. I am Helena Demuynck, your advocate for dismantling the inner barriers that keep brilliant women playing small. And here is what I've learned after guiding hundreds of high achievers. Your deepest purpose is not separate from your power. It is your power. And today we are having a conversation, the conversation that most leadership development completely misses: how to weaponize your purpose without losing your edge. So welcome when you are here live. Please join us in the chat. Share your questions, your feedback, your opinions. We will be very happy to integrate it. If you are watching or listening to the replay, do the same. Put your comments, your feedback, your questions in the chat. We will monitor it and we will get back to you. And so, meet my co-host, Melissa Fors Shackelford, a woman who refused to choose between profit and purpose. Over 20 years, she climbed to the top at healthcare giants as Optum and Cigna, and then did something radical. She walked away to prove that marketing could heal instead of manipulate. Her Amazon #1 bestseller, Harnessing Purpose, isn't theory but a battle plan. And through Shackelford strategies, she's helping brands generate both revenue and real impact. Melissa, welcome. I am so happy to have you here. How are you doing?
I'm great. And thank you for having me, Helena. I just think what you do is you really walk the walk. You don't just talk to talk about supporting women on their journey. So I'm grateful to have this conversation with you.
Hey, you do the same. It's so good to be able to co-create. I love co-creating with other female entrepreneurs because it is, as I said just before we started the live, there's an energy that really emerges and that co-creates something absolutely unique when we are intentionally sharing our knowledge and serving our audiences. So I'm really honored to have you here. And in the preparation, you said something that stopped me cold. Purpose is a leadership tool, not luxury. So when did that shift from nice to have to non-negotiable? And how did it fundamentally rewire the way that you showed up as a leader?
It's such a great topic. I feel like, yes, we can talk about this for an hour or more because it's
Absolutely.
so important. And I think I've been really lucky through my career to work for a number of very mission driven organizations. And even if they weren't outwardly mission driven, I was able to find that purpose and mission myself through the people that I was working with. And I really believe it all comes down to really your purpose, your vision and your values. And that can be for
Mhm.
yourself or for the organization that you work for. I mean, purpose is really your reason for being, and vision is where you're going, and values are really how you behave along the way. And so when I think about myself as a leader or the organizations that I've led marketing for or the clients that I help along the way, I think about really understanding my own purpose, being my reason for being, what gets me excited, what gets me up in the morning, but also an organization's purpose. What do they stand for beyond profits?
Hmm. Sometimes I have the feeling that mission and purpose at an organizational level is something they put on paper in the frames at the wall and in their marketing campaigns, but it's not really lived. And something I hear from the clients I work with is that sometimes it is so difficult to align their own purpose and their own mission and values with those of the organization they work for. And it is completely depleting. It's an energy drain. Does that sound familiar?
Absolutely. I hear that so much from others, and I've seen it in myself as well, where I
Mm.
think we all want to have our own values aligned with the work that we do every day and the organizations that we work for. And when there's a misalignment, not only do you have that gap, that emptiness, that burnout type of feeling, but even an organization, customers can feel it. So that's where it's so important to know that when you have a misalignment of values, your employees, your customers, I work in healthcare, so I'll also say patients, all of your stakeholders, they can feel it. They know that disingenuousness in a heartbeat, and they will walk away. And that's where what I've seen over the years is when you have an alignment, you've really spent the time as an organization to understand your values, your purpose, your mission, your values, then your end user customers will really be connected with you. I mean, today we know people are craving authenticity from
Mm.
the brands that they work with. And the same goes for all of the women leaders that you work with. We're really, I think we find that fulfillment when we can make sure that our day-to-day work is following along our own personal purpose, our own personal vision for our future, and our own personal values.
Mm. We make it sound like it's very easy and simple, and everybody has their purpose and mission and values clear. They don't, right? So,
No.
I mean, one of the things that I do, and sometimes these things shift or change or evolve or grow or whatever. There is an evolution, and I also see if women um, have a promotion, and especially when they change jobs or when they go from Melissa corporate to entrepreneur,
Mhm.
like you did. I mean, things shift, right? And it is about, okay, who am I as a leader now? How do I show up? What is it that I want to achieve in my new role? And how am I going to give that narrative? How am I going to show up not only physically in action, in goal setting, in decision making, but also in the storytelling so people understand what it is about, and you can create your allies and your stakeholders fundaments in order to go with you, which is kind of what we want to do as leaders.
Mhm.
So where did you begin? And I would love to hear your, if you don't mind, your personal story when you stepped out of corporate and when you started your own business. How did you rework that purpose and your mission?
And first of all, I love that you focus on that with the women you work with, because I think
Mm.
that's really the springboard for a lot of personal growth and really great leadership in the future for these women that you're working with. For myself, I had had a number of experiences where I was in situations that didn't align with my personal values. And I was very aware of what my personal values were. I believe in certain things as a leader and how I should treat my employees, how I should support my employees, and what I'd done, because I'm a marketing and a growth person. And so I'd had a little bit of a side hustle for a while. And I'd had some people, amazing people in my network who had supported me and suggested that I could and should go off on my own. And I just wasn't quite ready to make it more than a side hustle. And finally, what I learned just through my own personal, like I said, my personal experience, seeing that my own personal values weren't aligning with my organization or the work that I was doing, I just felt that the universe, as well as my network, was telling me I could do the side hustle full time. And that's really how it's worked out for me. I know not everybody is able to sort of vote with their feet and go off on their own or go to another organization or another situation. So I'm very grateful and fortunate in that I had that opportunity and that I had a network that was very supportive of me. I mean, people in my network I never dreamed would be uh, mentors. Some of them might not believe that they're my mentors, but they're absolutely. So many people in my network have shared their expertise, their intelligence, their experience, and I'm truly grateful for that. And as you mentioned before, some of the women that you work with on their leadership journeys, that's one thing I think everyone should start with, not only understanding what your personal values are, but building that network or kind of your personal board of directors, if you will. I have so many people in my life that I can go to and bounce ideas off of and really um, learn from. And that's for me it just been so important on this journey to me, having that sort of personal board of directors, whether they know it or not. Some of them know they're absolutely my formal mentors, and some of them I think would be surprised if I said that.
Mm. Well, I guess you say that purpose is a strategic tool for your leadership and your leadership growth. I believe, and I'm sure that you also, because of what you say, your network is also a strategic tool. And especially women are a little bit uncomfortable with that, because for them, networking, it's like, building relationships. But the moment that you are talking about activating that network, really making it also a strategic tool for your career growth and your leadership growth, it's like, I don't know if I can do that. I don't know if I can bother people. I don't know if, I don't know. I feel reluctant. And it's very interesting because a lot of people are absolutely so happy to help you and to support you and to sponsor you.
Exactly. And that was one
Yeah.
of the things I learned from you the first time you and I met, was that you have this amazing network, and it's not new. It's something you've been cultivating for many years. And I feel
Yeah.
like that's the same for me. I honestly, at certain points early in my career, didn't realize that I was building this network, or that I had this amazing asset of
Mm.
just wonderful people that have supported me along the way and challenged me along the way. But that
Yeah.
really is an amazing um, asset that I have. Beyond that, when you mention about activating your network and sometimes women's hesitation there, I think I always remind women when I suggest, or I offer them new business, or I offer them leads or opportunities, or they do the same for me. What I tell them is, this is what the men have been doing for years on the golf course, in the boardroom, out for drinks. They've been doing this for years. How do
Mm.
men get on boards that they're on? Well, it's a golf buddy. It's a fraternity brother. It's something like that, and that should be the same for women. And when
Yeah.
when women really get that, it's amazing, because then we can start to encourage others. And I
Mhm.
can't tell you, I'm surprised when women are surprised by the fact that we could and should leverage our own networks.
Yeah. Absolutely. And you were talking about mentorship. I would like to go one step further, and that is sponsorship,
Yeah.
which is different. I mean, a mentor tells you what he knows or what she knows, and gives advice. A sponsor is opening doors for you. It's really actively connecting you with people that might help you and that might be putting you on a different path, or on, helping you with your next step. Sponsorship is very, very important, and that is something that is absolutely I would say, underappreciated, or even maybe not known with a lot of women. I'm also setting up in October. I'm setting up a mastermind for female corporate executives, and there again, it is about supporting and sponsoring each other and activating the collective intelligence and the collective wisdom, and really be there, show up not only for yourself but for each other. And I think that we have that in us as caring beings, and yet, if we are looking how to activate that in a professional context, it's like, I don't know. And it's like you say, men do that in a different way, but they do that. They are opening doors I mean, from the golf court, or from the padel, or from from
Hmm.
whatever activity that they regularly have. That is, and although as women, we have historically been used to sit together and to work together, but it's like in our DNA, it never entered the activation process. So I hope with this we have, put a little bit of that energy into the universe.
We can
Yeah.
start to encourage women to really sponsor other women. And
Yes.
it's funny because just last week, so I'm on a board of an organization, because I work in healthcare, called the Women's Health Leadership Trust. And it really is a women in healthcare networking organization. And we had an event, and one of the women walked up to me and she said, "I hear you've been dropping my name in rooms I'm not in." And what she meant was, I had suggested her for some different opportunities. And I feel like that's my job. That's part of it.
Mm.
She's a woman in my network. She's very, very talented. Some people wouldn't know about her if I didn't suggest her. And I've done this a number of times, and other people have done this for me as well. And
Mm.
we forget about that there's such value in making introductions, on supporting others. And the fact that I feel like it's kind of the pay it forward. When I do it for
Mm.
others, it always comes back to me tenfold.
Mm.
And I just appreciate that you also made the distinction between mentorship and sponsorship, because I think the research shows that women are over mentored and not sponsored enough, particularly in
Exactly.
the corporate environment. And that's really, it's unfortunate, but I feel like, and I don't know your experience or the women you work with, their experience, I feel like the tide is starting to change, because I feel like I'm having these conversations with women more and more, that
Yeah.
they're name dropping key people, and that
Mm.
they're becoming supporters, whether it's in the corporate environment or externally. So is that this what you're starting to see, that it's starting to change?
Yes, absolutely. And it's also because it's a topic. I mean, I'm preparing an article about that, about sponsorship. I see a lot of people talking about that, writing about it. So it's becoming more a common knowledge and a common practice. And it's becoming also more accepted that we can do that, that we are like not overplaying our hands by doing that, or even by asking somebody to do that, because that's even different. Yeah, I would say more difficult. It isn't, but it's how we perceive it. A lot of those
Yeah.
things are our perception. And I believe intentionally working on your leadership growth, personal, in entrepreneurship, in corporate. It is about also being intentional on having these relationships, building these relationships, nurturing these relationships. It's also about deciding, because we all have the same time. I mean, we all have 24 hours in a day. It's also deciding where to prioritize. And sometimes we don't, because we feel too loyal to leave some organizations or communities behind while they're no longer serving us. Does that sound familiar, Melissa?
Oh, no, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It feels familiar, and I've seen it, so many other people do this. And I think some of us get to a certain point in our career, and when things don't align, when you don't have that sort of personal flywheel moving, you're not getting excited every day. It's not really filling your cup, if you will. We decide to make a change. And
Yeah.
sometimes it's a change within your own role, within your own company, because you don't have that opportunity to go somewhere else. But a lot of times it's saying, I want to do something different. It might be something in your, in your volunteer work, or in your personal life, in your free time outside of corporate too. But I think it's so important for all of us, especially women in this busy, busy world that we live in, to have something in your life that really fulfills you and that you
Mm.
can name. So it's that you honestly, when someone says, what fills your cup, like, I
Yeah.
love being of service. I love supporting other women. I love doing mentoring. I love doing volunteer work. All that just continues to fill my cup. And I think I like to surround myself with other people, and that are also kind of on sort of a mission driven path as well.
Mm. Yeah. And when you mix then your community and network building with purpose. I'm on my mobile because I'm on my Audible. I am in the process of listening to a book. It's called The Art of Gathering. And
Oh.
I don't know who, but an amazing woman I was talking to recently. If I will find it, I will give credits to her. Advised me to read this book. It's by Priya Parker, and the Art of Gathering. I'm not that far, but it is about also giving a purpose to your gathering,
Mhm.
even if it's like a lunch meeting with a colleague or a lunch meeting with an ex-colleague. Just be clear about what you would like to have as an outcome of that meeting. And you can do that for yourself, but you can also share that with the person or the people that you are meeting with, and say, this is like the purpose of our meeting.
And
And then basically you are already setting some expectations, but you're also already framing some things in that conversation that makes it easier for you also to ask for support, to ask for sponsorship, to ask for introductions, things like that. So you can set that up also with a purpose.
And you don't have to
Right?
be afraid to ask. And that's also how a lot of women get sponsorship, by being clear and not being afraid to sort of take that risk and ask for it. Another great book on kind of the sponsorship topic is by Jamie Tynan, called Inclusive Sponsorship. And that talks about it from both sides, from being sponsored as well as sponsoring women and other
Mm,
underserved communities. I think it's another great book. Inclusive
mm,
Sponsorship is the name. If listeners would be interested in that as a topic, I think for us to be real clear on what we want and what we need and be able to make that ask. I know for years I was just too hesitant to do that, to say, would you give me a reference? Would you do this? Would you do that? But for me, it's a lot easier when I ask someone, what can I do for you? And then it always comes back, what can I do for you?
yes.
And I need to
Yeah.
be clear. And if I'm very clear on what my values are, what my purpose is, what my desire is, what I'm working on, it's so much easier for other people to support us. And that's where I love that you're bringing up that whole conversation, because a lot of it is we're historically, women haven't been there to ask.
Mm, yeah. Let's go back to purpose. How can you feel or see that you don't have your purpose clear or that you have lost it? Are there certain things that you have discovered in that area?
I think a little bit goes back to, from an organizational perspective, what you said earlier, when it's just words on the wall or on a website. So your words and your actions don't match. That's where all of your stakeholders, your employees, your customers, your patients, your everyone in your network, they know, they can feel it in a heartbeat. And same with
Mm,
you as a leader. The people that are following you because they feel that resonance between your values and what you say and what you do. And it's kind of
mm,
like I mentioned to you when we first started this call. I really feel like everything I see from you, you support women in what you say, but you support women in what you do, and you walk the walk. You don't just talk the talk. I think for leaders, sometimes we can't see it on ourselves, but we can always see it in others when there's a misalignment of those values. And honestly, we see it in the news a lot, from corporations that say one thing and do another one. And customers see that, employees see that. And I work in healthcare, where there is just a healthcare kind of crisis in this country. There's worker shortages. It's difficult to hire nurses and nursing assistants and everybody in healthcare. And if you can have an organization that retains your employees because they feel happy, they feel fulfilled, they watch their leaders say what they mean and do something that follows along those same values, people are more apt to stay at an organization, and you don't have to continue to try and hire. It's just something that, for me, always as when I worked in corporations and I'd see my leaders do things that didn't fit with what they said, it made me question them, and I could feel that misalignment.
mm. When you look at a lot of organizations, especially now, but I guess everything is always especially now, but still, I mean, there's a lot of competition, there's a lot of uncertainty. There's certain people that create trade wars. A lot of competition is very, very hard. Companies struggle, there's people laid off, and sometimes purpose is like not a priority. It is about surviving. It is about the monthly and the quarterly results. It is about the stakeholders at Wall Street or wherever. And there you are. You're a VP or you're a C-suite woman, and you have your purpose. And more and more you feel that you are in this mud of not purpose driven, but I would not even say sometimes not even profit driven, but survival
Yeah.
politics that can become very quickly, I would say, even toxic, because it is all about competition. It's all about winning. It's ethics and purpose are very bendable in the eyes or in the hearts of some people. And then sometimes also for us, it is very difficult to, to thrive, because it's not for everybody to say, okay, it's not for me anymore. I'm gone. I mean, I quit. Quitting is a very courageous act. We have a power talk about that. A couple of months ago, we had the art and the courage of quitting, but a lot of us feel like we cannot do that. We have no alternative. We have no backup. We will lose credibility. We will lose our sometimes very linear career track. So then what?
Yeah. And I think from an organizational perspective, there's all sorts of research that shows companies with a strong sense of purpose outperform their competitors. And that's from Deloitte, it's from E&Y, there's articles in Harvard Business Review, they all say the same thing. We also know that companies that have women executives and women on their boards also outperform the competition. And there probably is some sort of alignment between those two studies. And so I think from a corporate perspective, as leaders, we as women leaders can lean into that and say, we have to show that we're about more than just profits. I've worked for some Fortune 28 companies that, yes, we're about the profits, but I still could feel that we had an end customer that we were focused on. And I still could feel, particularly with my teams, and my teams were always marketing teams, that we had our own why. We knew what our why was, and we would support each other in that why. And that the why would come through in hiring. It would come through in training and onboarding. It would come through with how we dealt with our customers. And it would come through with how we do recognition, because that's important. If we're just all about profits, things like hiring, onboarding, employee retention, none of that really matters, because it's all just about the bottom line.
Yeah.
And I think another thing to just contemplate as women leaders, we can think about what we stand for, what we represent, and how do we build trust with those that work for us, and build trust with our customers and our peers. And I talk about that in the book a lot, but it's something, just particularly because I work in healthcare, and trust is such a currency in healthcare, whether it's a B2B or B2C or working directly with patients. And you build trust by making sure your message has transparency, it has consistency, but more than anything, it has empathy. And I think empathy is something that for me is very closely tied to purpose. And empathy is what makes a great leader. And empathy with our customers is what kind of allows us to build these really meaningful long-term relationships with our customers. So that transparency, the consistency, but most importantly, having that empathy. And I think we as women leaders, some of that comes very naturally to us. And that's why often our companies led by women outperform their competition.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a lot of research pointing that out. And then again, when you look at reality, there's very few women leaders in C-suite, a little bit more at VP level. But even then, if you look at the strategic decision-making roles and disciplines, it's even, I would say, worse, right? I mean, you see a lot of women in HR, in customer service, in marketing, although I would say marketing should be very strategic in organizations. And so there's two things here, because you are this marketing specialist. So it's in your DNA. It's in your DNA to have or develop the language. It's in your DNA to understand how to translate purpose from something conceptual to something heartfelt that organization, team, stakeholders, customers, patients can feel. A lot of us don't have that in our DNA. And it makes it very complicated, especially if you are working in organizations where this direct relationship with, in an empathic way, with the customer or with an end customer is not there, or when you are in a role where that is it's very difficult to connect with. I mean, for example, finance, right? I mean, if you are the CFO, I can imagine several ways to develop a purpose in finance, but still I see that there's, for example, a lot of struggle. Like, how can we have this purpose connected with the complete organization? Does that make sense, Melissa?
Yes, absolutely. And I have known some really amazing purpose-driven finance leaders. And I think part of it is they're very focused on being ethical. They're focused on being transparent. They're focused on being collaborative. And I feel like empathy is woven through. And so some of those are just great leadership, kind of aspects of great leadership. But even for amazing CFOs, at least that I've worked with, and marketing, sometimes people forget that marketing works very closely with the CFO. Marketing is, I think, two of the most key roles for a marketer are the CFO and the CIO, because marketing is so technical these days. But that CFO is really a partner, because marketing is typically a pretty big line item in the budget. And so when you can find a CFO, when they're really someone who's aligned with their own personal values, and they bring that transparency, they bring that authenticity, when they bring trust and ethics to what they're doing, as well as empathy to other parts of the organization and collaboration, it works really, really well. And I think those are the best CEOs that you find. The ones that are off in a corner and very, very siloed and have no transparency and no collaboration. For me, those aren't the CEOs that are living really a true purpose-driven leadership style. And oftentimes those are the CFOs that people aren't following.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think for the last decades, at least, you can see the CFO is much more business oriented than pure the financial and accounting orientation. They can add value and have impact in many, many ways in an organization if they are business and purpose focused. And that brings me to another thing I would like to talk about with you, is the link between purpose and impact, because that's a very important one, right? We cannot not bring it today.
Yeah, and I think that whole, when you think about that purpose and impact, and you can define impact in so many different ways. You can define it from a personal standpoint. If you're a leader of other leaders, if you're a leader of staff, even if you're an individual contributor, what is your impact that you're making, and what is the impact that you want to make? You can also look at it from an organization standpoint. If you're a founder, what change do you want to make in the world? What impact do you want to make in the world? And so for me, a lot of that, thinking that through, gets back to that, what is your North Star, and what really kind of is your purpose, because that's really tied to the impact that you want to make. And we know that companies that have spent a lot of time here, they understand their impact goes oftentimes much beyond the profit, because it doesn't mean you have to be like, there's an organization called Tom's Shoes, and they started the kind of a thing where you bought a pair of shoes and they give a pair of shoes away to somebody in a country that needs them. And it's a wonderful thing. And when you think about that from a purpose, when you think about that from an impact globally, amazing. But not everybody is Tom's Shoes or has that ability. So all of us in just other kind of everyday organizations can still think about, what impact are you having? You can't see it, but over here on the wall, I have all kinds of cards people have given me over the years, from whether they were my peers, my mentees, my staff. Just people have given me things to show gratitude along the way. And I've saved them, because for me, making that impact is not just about profits or customers. It's also about the people that I've touched along the way, and I've helped them to grow in their careers. So for me, that's a value that's important to me, that I can make impact on human beings and their careers.
Mm. Yeah. Absolutely. And that is something that we also see more and more with female leaders, that they want to expand their impact to paying it forward, supporting others, bringing other women along in what they are doing and where they are going, and basically be mentors and sponsors for other women. I
Yeah.
absolutely like that. I also like your story from the shoe organization. Um, we can all do that somehow. We don't. We are not all shoe companies. I know that, but we can have impact beyond our traditional transactional role. I do that with Buy One Give One. That's
Mhm.
b1g1.com, and that's an organization that has been set up by Masami Sato, an amazing Japanese woman, and Paul Dunn. They have more recognition and visibility in Asia. But what they do is they provide projects that you can support on a monthly basis or on a transactional basis. And so for everything that I do, even for every book that I sell, I sponsor a woman in Kenya with a 10-day business education and a microcredit, so she can start her own business and support her family. And there's like a zillion projects that you can support on a monthly basis. And so basically, again, also walk the talk in terms of
Mhm.
having an impact beyond what you're normally doing, having an impact beyond your specific role in an organization or the interaction that you have with customers or with clients. And I think that we don't have to be Tom Shu or Belinda Gates in order to be able to
Yes.
have impacts. And when we were talking about purpose, also in our earlier conversation, Melissa, and it is about um, supporting women, but not only the women that have the possibility or that have access to leadership programs and to online programs and things like that. There's a lot of other women that can have in their communities also so much impact. For example, what I'm doing means that these women can send their
Mhm.
children to school. They can feed their children, so they don't have to see them get married at 13 because they cannot support their children. And so these are all little things that we can do um, at whatever level that we are. You can do that as an organization, you can do it as a team in an organization, you can do it personally, you can do it with a community or with a network. There's so many things that we can do in order to basically expand our purpose beyond what is visible in our world. I know I'm
I
I
love that.
could go I could go on like that for a long time. I
I
won't.
love that about you. I think that is so important. I think that I wrote down that organization, so I would like to look into it, and hopefully a lot
Mm,
of the listeners would too, because I think we all want to pay it forward in some way. I mean, we're people watching this are also like me, very, very fortunate. And so that's where for me, it's been very important to give back. And I'm part of a number of different organizations where I have that opportunity to either be a formal mentor, to be an informal mentor, to drop someone's name in a room that they're not in, to give people access or answer questions, just like people do for me. And for me, again, it's really filling my cup, because I understand that for me, it's just a transformative force in my life. And as a
mm,
marketer, I know the same works in having that business be a transformative force by pulling in purpose and living authentically with their values. Customers understand that. And we're hearing so much buzz about that today with Gen Z, that, well, Gen Z wants to make sure the brands that they work with align with their values. But I would say it goes beyond Gen Z. I think all of us want to work with and work for organizations that we have an alignment of values. So,
mhm,
what you're talking about, you walk the walk. You don't just talk the talk about supporting women and supporting others. And I aspire to be like that. I absolutely aspire to be like that.
Yeah, we can. I mean, it is about formulating your intentions and setting priorities, and then just going to action. And I have to say that having conversations with women like you and with female entrepreneurs and female executives and talking about these things, so bringing conversations to a different layer and a different level, it opens up because you get inspired, you get encouraged, you get ideas, you start doing things together. I think it is so important to share our purpose and share our mission. And for that, it's about having that clear. And sometimes I do retreats here on my mountain in Andalusia, where women sometimes come 4 or 5 days just to work on their mission. And because they have it in their head, they have like a concept, but it's like, okay, now what? I think I know, but it is about how to embody that. Right? It's not about having it intellectually. It is about knowing as a wisdom and being able to talk about that with other people in a compelling way, in an inviting way. And so it is about finding the language in the narrative. And you find that by talking about it, right? By having the conversations and by seeing how it lands, and by inviting feedback and integrating that feedback and making it richer and deeper. And I think as women, I would say, if you spend time networking, then I invite you to set an intention to go deeper in the networking and go to that level, instead of talking about how much work you have and how difficult the commute is sometimes and where you go on holidays. Go deeper, like what can we be for our teams, for our organizations, for each other, for the world. I would say, there we go again, how can we make this world a better place?
Yeah, I say it all the time when I do public speaking or keynotes, is marketing also is a force for good. And granted, that means the marketing could be a force for bad, which is probably true, but marketing is a force for good. So me, and in my role, I seek out ways to make sure marketing can be a force for good.
Beautiful, beautiful. I think we have covered quite a lot of different things here, Melissa. We were talking about networking and how we can leverage them not only into mentorship, but also into sponsorship. We have been talking about the importance of the community. We were talking about aligning purpose, your own purpose and values and mission with that of organizations, and how difficult it sometimes is, because we are so busy solving problems and making decisions. How difficult it sometimes is to take the time to reflect and say, why am I doing this? Why is this so important for me? What do I want to achieve? What's my legacy? And so this episode absolutely is an invitation to do that, and to give it language, and to share it with other people, and to make it richer and deeper, and to find that purpose that is energizing and that has an impact that goes beyond. I think that is what I see. What did I miss? Other things that
No,
we were
I think
touching?
that's all, and I'm so glad we spent quite a bit of time on sponsorship and supporting other women. I think for me, I think for both of us, that's part of our own personal values. And what I do know, when I spend time, or people that I work with or in my life spend time on their own personal why, sort of their own North Star, that they really can see that it's a driving force in their life. It gives what they're doing meaning. It gives, kind of ignites their passion, and it
Yeah.
helps them to achieve more along
Mm.
their journey. And so I think it's something, yes, I use every day as a marketer to make sure that the organization and the brand are very authentically aligned. But I think all of us, especially your audience of remarkable females, can also use that every day to just bring that meaning to their everyday journey.
Yeah, Absolutely. Without going into another 45 minutes, which we easily can do, maybe next time, is there anything we missed? Anything that from your point, Melissa, is also worthwhile to bringing here in this context, in this setting?
The only thing I would say, just because I am a marketing leader, and I think there's always lessons for women leaders or just leaders in general, that when you align your marketing efforts with your purpose, it really does inspire change and creates those. Oh, now I'll sound a little bit like a cliche, but it also, where's my book? I have a copy of my book, but it also inspires connection. Oh, you can't really see it, but inspires
Yeah, no,
connection. And that's really,
yeah,
it seems like a cliche, but really it does inspire connection, whether that's with your customers, with your staff, or with your stakeholders. And I think that's something that we all have been seeking, particularly in the last few years. We're all seeking that connection.
yeah, absolutely. I think that's a very important one and a beautiful one to add here. I do believe that we absolutely, in a world that is full of information and full of data, that we are looking for connection and experiences. And it's like you say, people that have a purpose and have a passion, you can see it in their eyes, right? You
Mhm.
can see it in the complete energy. You want to be there, you want to connect with them, you want to learn from them, you want to grow with them. And if you can be that inspiration source, that's such a beautiful thing. And we are here to inspire you also. That's why we do this power talk, especially on purpose. I was so happy, Melissa, when you brought this as a topic. um, I will make sure that people will find a link to your book and to your website and to any other information that is relevant, and that they can connect with you and see what you can bring and learn more about who you are. Because 45 minutes is only a very small portion of time to really know somebody. But I know, Melissa Fors Shackelford, that you have been giving your best in terms of your views and your experiences, and I am extremely grateful for that. Thank you so much for sharing that information and for being here on the Power Talks for Remarkable Females, and in that way supporting and sponsoring this initiative with another episode that offers content for the smart, conscious, and remarkable females. So thank you so much for being here with me. And for
Thank
the
you, Helena.
audience, you're so welcome. For the audience, thank you also for being here. As I said, if you are joining us later, or if you want to watch the replay and you want to interact with us, just put something in the comments or just connect with us. Connect with Melissa, connect with me on LinkedIn, subscribe to the YouTube channel. That's a sign of appreciation that I really, really love. It's growing our channel, and it's allowing us to reach even more women with our messages and our learnings and our insights. So thank you for being here, and hope to see you again soon. Bye for now. Take care.